This was not Greenwich Village, or Harlem, or Lower East Side, or the other spots where the Bohemian and Black Renaissances of the 60s are said to have taken place. Outside the building, car exhaust and piles of trash commingled with the fragrance of the fresh-cut flowers peddled by commercial sellers. Inside, the stench of urine, dead rats, and cat shit competed with the smell of cigarettes, alcohol, sawdust, oil paint, photography chemicals, and the occasional joint. But all of it, including the blaring taxicab horns below, seemed to fade into the background when the music was swinging. Such was the atmosphere of 821 6th Avenue. Welcome back to another video, people, and to another episode of Books, but this time around we're going to be reuniting some aspects of Eugene Smith's career, some of his images, combining them with this book right here, which is the Jazz Loft project. And if you've watched my video that I did, a little documentary on Eugene Smith's life and etc., you'll probably be familiar with this project. We've talked about it before, but anyways, I'll leave the link to the video. And before we jump into, some valuable teachings about composition that Eugene Smith has to tell us, we're first going to be diving into some really important context into Eugene Smith's life and this project in particular. So without further ado, grab a drink, make yourself comfortable, and let's go straight to another video. And checking in on Eugene Smith's life around this time when he was working on the Jazz Loft project, there's sadly a word that describes it very well. And that word is respectfully a mess. Unfortunately, this was a sort of turbulent time for Smith, who had spent the previous years of his life working on his famous Pittsburgh project, which he never really finished. And he was profoundly affected by this. But not only that. In this book, it is described that, quote, he was going through a harrowing stretch in his personal life. He had 4 children and a wife in New York, and another child living with a lover in Philadelphia, and he virtually abandoned all of them when he moved to 821. Life and Look magazines each offered $20,000, which in today's money would be the equivalent of $218,000 for the rights to the Pittsburgh prints. But the magazines wouldn't agree on his demands for editorial control. His financial problems mounted, and his manic highs and suicidal lows were aggravated or preceded by addictions to alcohol and methamphetamines. But Smith never really stopped working. And this is what I can see through this book. I can see that he really never shot, or he really never stopped working, stopped shooting. This is only a small fraction of the thousands and thousands of rolls that he shot around this time. And also, very interestingly, this book combines excerpts of, transcriptions of the audio tapes that he recorded, and he recorded approximately 4,000 hours. So it's very, very interesting to read the introduction to understand all this context, to understand where he was in his life. And he actually he went to such an extent to make this happen. He would be taping, the inside of the apartment, but also the outside of the building. There were cables running through, microphones. So it was very, very interesting. And every time people asked him why was he doing that, he actually said that he was making a book. Now imagine if things didn't turn out like this and Gene Smith's photos and audios got corrupted during their digital transfers, or simply had those marks and creases old photos usually have when not stored properly. Well, it's case to say we would need the help of today's sponsor, Wondershare's Repairit. And we partnered with Wondershare quite regularly to talk about their products, and this time around we're talking about Repairit. And as the name suggests, this is a tool to repair your files from videos, photos, audios, documents, PDFs, you name it. However, in this new version of Repairit, there are two new features that I really was impressed by, and those are old photo restoration and colorization with AI. And I downloaded some images, a simple portrait with an already restored version, so I could then compare the results that I would get with the software, and another image of the legendary Elvis Presley charming a group of girls as he usually would do. And both these are damaged, as you can see, with aging and folding marks, and when I ran it through this software I was truly impressed with the results and with the different options of colors for these photos. So no matter what it is, whatever is corrupted or needs to be fixed, Repairit can help you in most instances, and it's worth to mention as well that Wondershare has a great support center to help users troubleshoot different problems, and in their website they also have great how-to guides and essential information. So links to Wondershare's Repairit and additional information are down below, and I want to thank them for sponsoring the channel and helping in getting funds to get books like these so we can have more videos like these. So a big thank you to them, and now let's go back to the video and check in on what we can learn from Eugene Smith. Quote, "See, actually, I'm doing a book about this building itself, out the window and within the building, because it's quite a weird and interesting story." And this is a key to understand a lot of the compositions we see here in this book. While looking at them, I believe that he's teaching us that compositions should have a purpose or serve an idea or narrative. And looking at Smith's career, we know that he was big on editorial work, and he's known as the father of the photo essay. And associating this characteristic of Smith's work with his documentarian nature, I think it's safe to say that he was working on documenting that environment as best as he could. And what makes Eugene Smith's photography for me personally is his use of all elements in order to tell a story or help pass his vision of a given scene. And normally these were emotionally motivated. In my opinion, he's extremely prolific in capturing and conveying emotions, and so this first point is precisely on building compositions around narratives or dominant ideas. Take a look at page 63, where we have Thelonious Monk playing his piano. We can see the original composition on top and the cropped one at the bottom. And we can see that by isolating this emotion in the musician's face, we have simply a more powerful moment, where we, the viewers, take on the passion, the concentration, and the momentum of Monk without even realizing it. A few pages later, I noticed the same thing. Even though the musician is not totally in focus, the use of a slower shutter speed created this blurry figure that conveys effectively the passion and that momentary fulfillment when you let yourself feel a certain rhythm or a song and you kind of let your body go. And going beyond this book, I actually want to put on screen one of my favorite images that he ever produced, which is the Spanish Wake, which was a photo taken in 1950 for an editorial or a photo essay that he captured in Spain. And in here, the light, the positioning of the family, in line with details like hands, the strong contrasts, textures, it all works in favor of conveying the emotion and the idea of mortality. But the truth is that you're free to interpret this image however you want. But you cannot deny that all the different elements work together to serve a narrative or purpose here, which makes sense with what Eugene Smith stated at some point in time, which was, what's the use of having a great depth of field if there is not an adequate depth of feeling? And another point that I wanted to talk to you about is on visual simplicity. I know it seems like quite basic, but I feel like these days we live kind of like in a world where everything has pretty much been tried or done. And, we have this idea of, or at least generally speaking, I have sometimes people talking to me about this and I really don't agree, which is, a beautiful composition can be as complex, as you want to, but it can also be the simplest thing. When I talk about Eugene Smith, one of the things that I really, really like is his visual simplicity. And for instance, talking about images that are not in this book, but one particular image that, has been always on my mind is his portrait of this man in 80, and basically everything is blackened out around him and you see kind of like a silhouette of his face. And I think it's so important, and he has other compositions where basically everything is too dark, but you see the important details. And this is something he was very criticized throughout his career. There was a lot of editors. I actually had access to a thesis that someone did on Eugene Smith, and that person quoted a lot of articles of people that at the time were, telling Eugene Smith, your prints are too dark, you can't see anything. And his response was that you can actually see what matters. So this visual simplicity goes to show that it's so important to think of composition as, motivated by what you want to show and what is your intention with, that particular photo. And sometimes, even though we can go through what is aesthetically beautiful, we can definitely do that. But I think what Eugene Smith tells us is that he can create something aesthetically beautiful by focusing on the depth of the picture. And taking a look at this image where we have, I presume, two street vendors walking in the snow, we see that what makes this image stand out is possibly the snow and the different textures and shades of snow on the road. And a couple of pages later, we have two other images whose beauty heavily relies on deep contrast in textures. In other words, Eugene Smith is able to produce what I like to call, just to myself, transparent compositions. And this is something that I think is very characteristic of Smith's time. We look directly at what he wants to show us. It's natural. Your eyes are drawn to what is the genre or core of his images due to these deep contrasts, which will take us to point number 3. In 1952, during an article in Popular Photography, Smith commented about his work and the treatment of light. The important elements of the picture are not dark. They are easily accessible. Other areas might be subdued. I use whatever controls in printing necessary for the effect I want. I am not always successful, but in all my work, I try to translate the scene as I see it, as simply and powerful as I can. And these words, I feel, complement my previous point on, visual simplicity, I believe. However, I titled this segment light as a subject, not because I really believe that Eugene Smith treated light as a subject, but more or less because I think that he definitely, through his black and white images, highlights the importance of light. And he reminds us kind of like that photographers are like painters, but instead of painting with ink, they paint with light. And this is why I find this book also so interesting, because we have different subject matter, from jazz musicians on their own to entire jam sessions, parties, street scenes, and I love how through all of this, Eugene Smith shows us that the best free and available tool we have access to as photographers is indeed light. Because light will define your forms, your lines, your textures, and even your tone. Some of these images have a moodier and darker tonality, whereas others are lighter. This shows that we should never stop studying light, no matter how much experience, what our subject matter is, and our level of expertise, and what cameras or other tools we're using. George Eastman once said, "Light makes photography. Embrace light, admire it, love it. But above all, know light. Know it for all you're worth. And you will know the key to photography." And this has been all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it, and supporting the channel, becoming a member, your comments, your messages, getting in touch. I really appreciate it. All the ideas for videos and etc. So I have a long list, and hopefully I'll keep them coming. I'm trying to do at least one episode of books a month. So we have more, at least something to look forward for this. I think we have 15 episodes at the moment of this show. So I'm, pointing at making more for the future. So leave your recommendations below. Leave your thoughts on this book. If you grabbed it already, let me know what your experiences, have been. Have you enjoyed the book? What was the point that you like it the most? Or if you're thinking about grabbing other books by Eugene Smith. But anyways, I guess that like I said, it's all for today. My links will be down below, links to my social media, but links to the members community, super important. If you can help support the channel, that is a great way to help. And so link to that will be down below. You have access to exclusive videos, polls to define, videos on the main channel, etc. So it's a cool and fun kind of like little group that we have going on there. So I want to thank the members as well for always, being so positive and being so helpful in there as well, and so eager to help and participate. So I want to thank them, a special thank you. And yeah, it's all for today. So stay safe, keep shooting, keep creating, keep learning photography, and I'm out. Peace.